The night sky was shattered by the blaze of a failing spacecraft as it streaked across the heavens, its jagged silhouette burning bright against the cosmos before plummeting toward the rugged mountains of Northern California. Inside the craft, two young brothers, Lycor and Silas, clung to each other, their hearts pounding in sync with the shuddering of their doomed vessel. Lycor, the elder, wrapped his slender arms protectively around Silas, whispering reassurances through their telepathic link, a unique bond that allowed them not just to speak without words, but to share emotions and thoughts directly. As the ground rushed up to meet them, Lycor's thoughts were not of fear, but of the life they had just escaped, a war-torn planet, ravaged by factions vying for control over their species' powerful abilities. He remembered the explosion that had destroyed their home, sending them hurtling through space in an ancient escape pod they barely knew how to operate. Their parents' last sacrifice was to send them away, anywhere, as long as it was out of reach from the clutches of the enemy. The impact of the crash was less severe than they anticipated, cushioned somewhat by the thick forest into which they plummeted. The cabin went dark. The roar of the engines cut abruptly as the spacecraft burrowed itself into the earth. Dazed but alive, the brothers emerged from the wreckage, their slight bodies covered in dust and alien blood, their senses overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of an unknown planet. Their first breaths of Earth's air were heavy with the scent of pine and the metallic tang of their smoking ship. The night was eerily silent, except for the crackle of fire and the distant howl of an animal, a stark contrast to the constant bombardment they had grown accustomed to. As they stumbled away from the smoldering remains, the crash site was already being pinpointed by the keen technologies of human military forces who had monitored the unidentified craft's fiery descent through their atmosphere. Commander Jack Grimes, a man with a reputation as hardened as the metals on his chest, was among the first to arrive. His mission was clear: secure the site, retrieve any survivors or bodies, and contain any potential threat. The presence of extraterrestrial life was not unheard of, but direct encounters were rare and often fraught with danger. The brothers, hiding in the shadow of a large boulder, watched as lights pierced the darkness and men in uniform began swarming over their only refuge. It was Silas who moved first, his younger mind less burdened by the caution their parents had ingrained in them. He reached out with his mind, touching the thoughts of one of the humans. Confusion reigned in the man's consciousness, mingled with fear and a rigid duty to protect his world. Silas recoiled, overwhelmed by the intensity of human emotions. When they were inevitably discovered, huddled together and visibly alien with their luminescent eyes and elongated limbs, the response was immediate. Guns were raised, shouts filled the air, and Jack Grimes stepped forward. His voice was gruff as he issued orders, his gaze assessing and sharp. Yet despite the harshness in his approach, there was a methodical professionalism that suggested he was not a man who acted out of fear or malice. "Secure them, gently," he instructed his men, his eyes never leaving the brothers, as they were escorted away from the warmth of their dying ship into the custody of these humans. The brothers exchanged a glance. No words were needed. Their journey had just taken a new turn into realms unknown and a future uncertain. Their lives on Earth had begun not with open arms, but with guarded curiosity and restraint, a beginning fraught with as many dangers as opportunities. As dawn broke over the mountain range, the morning light revealed the extent of the previous night's events. The crumpled form of the alien spacecraft lay nestled between towering pines, its hull scarred and smoldering, a stark reminder of the chaos that had descended from the sky. Commander Jack Grimes surveyed the scene with a critical eye, his mind racing through protocols and potential implications. The arrival of an unknown alien species could not have come at a more turbulent time, with global tensions already high and the public's trust in governmental transparency waning. Jack's focus, however, was momentarily diverted by the soft murmur of his men securing the perimeter, their voices interspersed with the occasional crackle of radios confirming the containment of the area. Inside a makeshift command tent, the brothers Lycor and Silas sat closely together, their thin silvery forms a sharp contrast to the robust camouflage soldiers guarding them. Despite their otherworldly appearance, there was something undeniably childlike in their posture, the way they huddled together, wide-eyed and silent, observing the hustle of military activity around them. The commander entered the tent, his boots thudding heavily on the compact earth. He paused, allowing his eyes to adjust to the dim light before fixing them on the brothers. Jack's reputation as a stringent and uncompromising leader had often been cited as the reason for his rapid ascent through the military ranks, but those same traits made him an intimidating figure to the newly arrived extraterrestrials. "Do you understand me?" Jack asked, his voice steady and commanding. The brothers flinched slightly, not at the sound of his voice, but at the mental intrusion as they picked up on his surface thoughts, skepticism mixed with a scientific curiosity about their origins and abilities. Lycor, sensing a need to bridge the gap, responded not aloud but directly into Jack's mind, a delicate thread of thought weaving into the human's consciousness. "We understand. We mean no harm," he conveyed, his mental voice echoing with a haunting melody that took Jack by surprise. He stepped back, his hand instinctively reaching for the sidearm he wore, a gesture not missed by the observant eyes of the brothers. Jack composed himself quickly, masking his initial shock with a nod of acknowledgement. "You're a long way from home. What brought you to Earth?" he asked, this time more mindful of the extraordinary method of communication the brothers employed. The conversation that followed was cautious, each party measuring the other's words and intentions. Lycor explained their flight from a war that had left their planet in ruins, their journey propelled by desperation and the hope of finding refuge. Silas, more reserved, watched Jack intently, trying to glean more about this human who now held their fate in his hands. As the morning progressed, Jack ordered medical checks and basic necessities for the brothers, his demeanor professional, but not unkind. He understood the importance of these initial interactions, aware that his reports would likely influence future policies regarding these alien visitors. Meanwhile, the brothers began to grasp the complexity of their new environment, their initial fear giving way to a cautious curiosity about Earth and its inhabitants. Throughout this first encounter, an unspoken agreement seemed to form between Jack and the brothers, an acknowledgement of mutual need and the potential for cooperation. As Jack left the tent to confer with his superiors, he glanced back at Lycor and Silas, their alien forms illuminated by the slanting rays of the morning sun. There was much to be done, and many questions remained unanswered, but for now, a fragile bridge had been built, and that was a start. Lycor and Silas found themselves in a temporary holding area within a high-security military compound, their new home, more akin to a sterile laboratory than the vibrant, life-filled spaces they were accustomed to on their own planet. The air was crisp and artificial, circulated through systems designed to filter and control rather than refresh. They were provided with basic necessities, food, water, and sleeping quarters, but the simplicity of these comforts did little to ease their sense of captivity. Each day was structured with rigorous precision, meals at scheduled intervals, medical examinations to assess their physiology, and language sessions to enhance their communication with humans. The brothers quickly grasped English, their telepathic abilities giving them an edge in understanding nuances of meaning and emotion that were often lost in translation. Commander Jack Grimes, who had taken a personal interest in their integration, visited frequently. He observed their interactions with the staff, noting how they adapted to their environment. Despite their cooperation, an undercurrent of tension ran through these interactions. The brothers were keenly aware of their role as subjects of study, not guests, and it rankled their pride and sense of autonomy. Their daily routine was occasionally broken by tests designed to gauge their abilities. Under the watchful eye of military scientists, they demonstrated their telekinetic powers, moving objects with a concentration that visibly drained them. Observers, including Jack, were both fascinated and unsettled by these displays. The implications of such powers were not lost on anyone, particularly in a military context. However, it was during one of these tests that an unexpected emergency offered the brothers a chance to show a different side of their capabilities. A fire broke out in one of the laboratories, triggered by an electrical fault. The alarm blared through the compound, sending staff scrambling to contain the blaze. Lycor and Silas, who had been nearby, reacted instinctively. Silas, using his telekinesis, manipulated the heavy extinguishing equipment with ease, directing it towards the heart of the flames, while Lycor used his telepathy to calm and direct the panicked staff to safety. In the days that followed, the atmosphere around their holding area softened. Staff members approached them with a bit more openness, and the brothers responded with cautious warmth. Their relationship with Jack, in particular, began to evolve. The commander found himself increasingly invested in their well-being, impressed by their resilience and intrigued by their complex personalities. Despite these improvements, the brothers remained under strict surveillance. Freedom was still a distant dream, and their future on Earth uncertain. Yet, as they lay in their sparse quarters each night, the stars visible through the small barred window, they found a measure of comfort in knowing they had begun to forge a path toward acceptance, perhaps even respect, in this foreign world. Their journey was far from over, but for the first time since their harrowing arrival, they felt a flicker of hope that they might find a place here, not just as survivors, but as members of a new community. The weeks that followed the fire incident marked a subtle but profound change in the brothers' lives within the compound. As Lycor and Silas became more familiar with their surroundings and the humans around them, they also grew more adept at managing their abilities under less stressful conditions. They began to engage more freely in the daily activities set for them, finding little ways to demonstrate their growing trust in the team that worked with them, and perhaps more crucially, earning trust in return. One particularly crisp morning, Commander Jack Grimes organized an outdoor exercise, part of a new initiative to test how well the brothers could handle their powers in varied environments. The test was simple. A series of objects were placed at different distances, and the brothers were to move them without direct physical contact, manipulating their positions in increasingly complex patterns. It was also a chance for the military personnel to see the alien abilities in a less controlled setting, away from the confines and safety of the laboratory. The field where the exercise took place was surrounded by tall pines, offering a serene backdrop that contrasted sharply with the rigorous activity planned. Lycor and Silas, dressed in plain utilitarian clothes provided by the facility, stood side by side as they focused on the objects. The onlookers, a mix of scientists and military personnel, watched in silent anticipation. As the brothers raised their hands, the objects began to levitate, soaring through the air with graceful precision. They started simply moving single objects, but gradually, their movements became more intricate, coordinating multiple items in a dazzling aerial dance. The display was not just a demonstration of control, but an art form, expressing their emotions and history through the very air around them. Jack watched, his usual stern expression softening. It was one thing to read reports about their capabilities. It was entirely another to see them in action, harnessing their powers with such confidence and finesse. He felt a pang of something unexpected, pride perhaps, or admiration for their resilience and their willingness to share such a personal part of themselves. The exercise concluded without incident, and the applause from the watching personnel was spontaneous and genuine. For the first time, Lycor and Silas felt a sense of achievement that went beyond mere compliance with their caretaker's requests. They had connected with the audience on a human level, showcasing their abilities not as weapons or tools, but as extensions of their beings. The success of the outdoor exercise led to a decision to gradually increase the brothers' interactions with various departments within the military complex. They participated in strategic games, contributing ideas from their unique perspective, and joined educational programs where they learned more about Earth's culture and history. These activities were designed not only to integrate them into the community, but also to prepare them for eventual interactions with the wider world. Jack's daily reports grew increasingly positive, highlighting the brothers' progress and adaptability. He began to advocate for more autonomy for Lycor and Silas, arguing that their demonstrated goodwill and cooperative spirit warranted a loosening of some restrictions. His relationship with the brothers deepened, morphing from that of a warden to something more akin to a mentor, or even a reluctant guardian. As the barriers between them slowly eroded, the compound that once felt like a prison began to feel more like a home base, a place of growth and learning. The brothers, in turn, started to view Jack not just as their overseer, but as a crucial ally in their journey towards understanding and being understood in this new world. They were reluctantly starting to call their own. The newfound equilibrium in the military compound was shattered one evening when a group of mercenaries infiltrated the facility. Their objective was clear: capture Lycor and Silas for their unique abilities, which were now widely rumored to be of immense value. The attack was swift and brutal, catching the compound's security forces off guard and throwing the facility into chaos. Commander Jack Grimes was quick to react. He had developed contingency plans for such a scenario, though he had hoped never to use them. His primary goal was to secure the brothers and evacuate them to safety. As alarms blared and gunfire echoed through the corridors, Jack found Lycor and Silas in their quarters, already alert and ready to move. Their trust in Jack was complete. Without question, they followed him through a maze of back corridors and hidden passages known only to a few high-ranking officers. The escape route took them through parts of the compound rarely seen by regular staff, including underground tunnels and supply shafts. The brothers' telepathic abilities proved invaluable, allowing them to sense the mercenaries' positions and intentions, giving Jack and his small team the advantage they needed to stay one step ahead. Outside, under the cover of darkness, they reached a concealed vehicle bay. Jack ushered the brothers into an armored transport vehicle, taking the wheel himself. As they drove through the rugged terrain surrounding the compound, the sounds of pursuit were not far behind. The mercenaries were relentless, equipped with advanced tracking technology that made it difficult to shake them off. As they navigated through narrow mountain passes and dense forests, the brothers' anxiety was palpable. They were no strangers to conflict, but the ferocity and directness of the attack were jarring. Despite the intensity of the situation, Jack's calm demeanor provided a sense of stability. He explained his plan to reach a safe house several hours away, a location equipped with defenses against such threats. The journey was tense, with Jack using every driving skill he possessed to evade and outmaneuver their pursuers. Several times they were nearly caught, but quick thinking and a bit of luck kept them safe. During these moments, the brothers did not sit idly by. They used their powers to subtly manipulate the environment around them, causing branches to fall and obscure the road, or creating misleading noises to draw the mercenaries away. In the quiet moments between crises, the real impact of their situation began to sink in. The world outside the military's structured environment was full of dangers they had never anticipated. The brothers exchanged worried glances, their future uncertain, but they also felt a deepening bond with Jack. He had risked everything to protect them, and in his focused, determined face, they saw a glimpse of the harsh, protective love he was beginning to feel for them. As dawn approached, they finally reached the safe house, a fortified cabin hidden deep in the national forest. Exhausted but alive, they secured the premises and settled in. The night's events had changed everything. What had begun as a mission to protect and study the brothers had evolved into a desperate fight to save them from forces that viewed them as nothing more than assets to be exploited. In the safety of the safe house, under the faint light of the morning sun, Jack, Lycor, and Silas sat together, not just as commander and wards, but as a makeshift family thrown together by circumstance, now bonded by loyalty and mutual respect. The road ahead would be challenging, but they faced it together, an unspoken commitment forming among them to protect each other against whatever threats might come. After a brief respite at the safe house, it became evident that staying in one place for too long was a risk they couldn't afford. Jack, with years of tactical training, knew that the mercenaries would regroup and intensify their efforts. They needed to keep moving, stay one step ahead. The plan was to make their way to a more secure government facility, where Jack could leverage additional resources to protect the brothers. This journey would take them across several states, blending into the population and avoiding any pattern that could be tracked. Lycor and Silas, though weary, adapted quickly to the nomadic lifestyle imposed upon them. Each day brought new challenges as they navigated through small towns and large cities, always under the guise of darkness or amid the bustling anonymity of crowds. The brothers learned to pass unnoticed, their alien features obscured under hoods and hats, their eyes seldom lifting to meet those of the curious humans around them. Jack, in turn, was learning from them. The brothers shared stories of their planet, their culture that valued deep emotional connections and community, which starkly contrasted with the often individualistic human society. These exchanges happened during long drives or while hiding out in abandoned warehouses and remote motels, each story helping to build a picture of what they had lost and what they hoped to find on Earth. The chase led them to a climactic encounter in the heart of the Rocky Mountains. The mercenaries had managed to corner them near a steep cliffside. With no clear path forward, the situation looked dire. It was here that Silas and Lycor's abilities shone once again. As Jack created a diversion with a series of smoke bombs and misleading radio transmissions, the brothers used their telekinesis to dislodge large rocks, creating a barrier that blocked the road behind them. But their escape was not just a physical one. During these intense moments, their mental coordination was crucial. They developed a non-verbal language of thoughts and impulses, guiding each other and Jack through the perilous terrain. This silent communication was their secret weapon, allowing them to orchestrate their movements with precision and care, avoiding detection as they slipped through the mercenaries' grasp once more. Their journey also forced them to confront the reality of their situation on Earth. They were not merely survivors of a distant conflict, but now active participants in a new kind of struggle. Each encounter with the mercenaries brought home the realization that their presence on Earth was not without consequences for the humans around them. This realization sparked a determination to no longer be mere pawns in the conflicts of others. As they finally reached the outskirts of a large, bustling city where the next secure facility was located, they took a moment to reflect on their journey so far. The city's lights flickered in the distance, a symbol of human achievement and persistence. For Lycor and Silas, it represented a beacon of hope, a chance to finally find a semblance of stability, and perhaps in time, a home. Jack watched the brothers gaze out at the city, their faces illuminated by the distant lights. In their expressions, he saw a mix of apprehension and awe, a reflection of his own feelings when he first embarked on this unexpected journey with them. The road ahead was still fraught with uncertainty, but the mutual trust and respect they had forged made them more than a team. They were a family, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. As the city skyline drew closer, the air thick with the promise of safety and a new beginning, Jack's communicator buzzed with urgent messages. The secure government facility was just within reach, yet danger lurked much closer than they had anticipated. Unknown to them, the mercenaries had anticipated their route and set up an ambush at a critical pass leading into the city. Realizing the impending danger, Jack decided they couldn't simply drive into the trap. He pulled off the main road, steering the vehicle into an abandoned industrial area. The landscape was stark, with long shadows cast by derelict factories and warehouses, a ghost town that spoke of better economic times. Here Jack planned to make a stand, to buy enough time to contact his allies within the government for extraction. The brothers, sensing the gravity of the situation, prepared themselves for what might be their fiercest confrontation yet. They had grown in their abilities, their confidence bolstered by the skirmishes during their journey. They were no longer the frightened, uncertain beings who had crash-landed on Earth. They were fighters, ready to defend their new life and the man who had risked everything for them. As the mercenaries closed in, the setting sun cast an eerie glow over the industrial wasteland. Jack, Lycor, and Silas positioned themselves inside one of the more stable structures, a former steel mill. Its labyrinthine layout and solid construction provided the perfect stronghold. Jack laid out his arsenal of weaponry and surveillance gear, keeping communication lines open for that crucial call to his allies. The attack came at twilight, the sky a blaze of orange and purple, gunfire echoing through the empty buildings like the roar of an angry beast. The mercenaries were cautious, knowing the brothers' capabilities. They tried to flush the trio out with tear gas and flashbangs, but Lycor and Silas were ready. Using their telekinesis, they turned the mercenaries' own weapons against them, hurling back grenades and creating shields from debris to block incoming fire. Jack coordinated their defenses with military precision, but it was the brothers who turned the tide. Silas, with a concentrated effort, manipulated the metal beams of the warehouse, twisting and warping them to create barriers and traps. Lycor, more attuned to the emotional state of their attackers, sowed confusion and fear among them, breaking their resolve. The climax of the battle came as a mercenary detachment managed to breach their makeshift fortress. With Jack pinned down and in immediate danger, Lycor and Silas performed a desperate feat. Combining their powers, they created a telekinetic wave that swept through the mill, disarming the mercenaries and knocking them off their feet, their weapons skittering across the ground far out of reach. In the aftermath, as the dust settled and the echoes of battle faded, Jack, Lycor, and Silas emerged from the mill, weary but unbroken. The arrival of military reinforcements secured the area, the mercenaries rounded up and detained. The brothers stood beside Jack, their presence a silent testament to their journey, their unity, and their fierce determination to protect each other. The fight at the mill was more than a physical confrontation. It was a declaration of their right to exist freely, to make choices, and to defend their place in the world. As they finally made their way to the secure facility, the city lights welcoming them in the distance, they knew that their lives would never be the same. But whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together, as a family forged not just by circumstance, but by choice, and by the battles they had endured side by side. After the intensity of the battle, the secure government facility felt like a sanctuary. Nestled within the sprawling urban landscape, the facility was a fortress of modern design and high technology, equipped to provide them not just protection, but a semblance of a normal life. Jack, Lycor, and Silas were welcomed with a mixture of awe and respect. News of their ordeal had spread through the ranks, and their arrival was met with curious glances and discreet murmurs. As they settled into this new environment, it became clear that their lives would pivot yet again. The facility offered them an opportunity to integrate more deeply into human society. It provided educational programs, cultural exchanges, and, most importantly, a community that was aware and somewhat accepting of their presence. Here, they were not anomalies to be studied, but individuals with unique backgrounds and perspectives. For Jack, this was a turning point in his career and personal life. His role expanded from protector and guardian to that of a mentor and advocate. He worked tirelessly to ensure that the brothers would have a platform to voice their needs and opinions, fighting for their rights as sentient beings deserving of respect and autonomy. This advocacy wasn't just driven by duty but by a genuine affection that had grown from their shared experiences. Lycor and Silas took to their new roles with enthusiasm. They participated in forums and discussions, sharing insights about their technology and culture, which were of immense interest to the scientific community. Their ability to manipulate physical objects with their minds opened new doors in physics and engineering research, while their telepathic abilities challenged the psychologists and neuroscientists to rethink the boundaries of the mind. Meanwhile, the brothers also took this time to learn, to explore what it meant to live among humans. They attended classes, absorbed human literature, music, and art, enriching their understanding of the planet they now called home. This educational pursuit wasn't just academic. It was a heartfelt exploration of the human condition, an attempt to find common ground in emotions, aspirations, and dreams. As they grew more comfortable in their surroundings, the facility staff and other residents became like an extended family. The initial wariness gave way to friendships, with many captivated by the brothers' kindness and wisdom, their quiet dignity, and their earnest desire to contribute positively to the community. The culmination of this period of growth and acceptance came when Jack officially adopted Lycor and Silas. It was a simple ceremony, attended by friends and colleagues who had supported them through their journey. The adoption was symbolic, transcending legalities to affirm a bond that had been forged through adversity and solidified through mutual respect and love. In this moment, standing together in the soft light of the assembly room, with smiles and congratulations echoing around them, Lycor and Silas felt a profound sense of belonging. They were no longer just survivors of a distant catastrophe, but active, contributing members of a vibrant community. They had found a new family, a new purpose, and a new home. As the celebration continued, the brothers stood beside Jack, their gazes fixed on the horizon visible through the large windows. The world outside was vast, filled with challenges and opportunities, mysteries and adventures yet to be explored. They knew the road ahead would be fraught with hurdles, but they also knew they would face them together, as a family united not by blood, but by bonds stronger than steel, bonds of loyalty, love, and shared dreams for a future filled with hope and promise. The weeks following the adoption ceremony marked a period of significant transition for Lycor and Silas. With their legal and familial ties to Jack now officially recognized, they began to engage more openly with the wider world. Their story, once confined to military reports and whispered rumors, had now captured the public's imagination. The brothers became symbols of hope and the potential for peaceful extraterrestrial interaction. This public interest, while overwhelming at times, also provided them with a platform to advocate for understanding and cooperation between their species and humans. The government, keen to capitalize on the positive PR wave, organized a series of public events and television appearances for the brothers. With Jack's guidance, Lycor and Silas handled their newfound fame with grace and dignity. They spoke about their experiences, their rescue, and their life at the facility, carefully balancing their privacy with the public's curiosity. Each appearance was an opportunity to dispel myths and fears about extraterrestrial beings, showcasing their peaceful intentions and the similarities rather than the differences between their species and humans. Meanwhile, at the facility, life continued to evolve. The brothers dedicated themselves to several community projects, including educational workshops that aimed to teach human children about the universe and its vast possibilities. These workshops were a hit, fostering a sense of wonder and excitement about space, and promoting a message of unity and shared stewardship of the cosmos. Their integration into society also allowed for personal growth. Lycor developed a passion for Earth's visual arts, spending hours painting and sculpting, translating his feelings and memories of his home planet into vibrant artworks. Silas, on the other hand, was drawn to music, learning to play several instruments and even composing pieces that blended elements of their musical heritage with human influences. As autumn turned to winter, a large gala was organized in their honor, attended by dignitaries, scientists, and leaders from around the world. The event was meant to celebrate not only their journey, but also the potential for future collaborations between Earth and the brothers' home civilization. During the gala, Lycor and Silas performed a short musical and visual presentation, which they had prepared as a gift to their hosts and supporters. The performance was a profound display of their culture and abilities, a narrative told through soaring music and dynamic visuals that depicted the history of the people and their hopes for the future. The emotional apex of the evening came when Jack took to the stage to speak about their journey together. His speech, heartfelt and sincere, highlighted the challenges they had faced and the victories they had achieved. He spoke of the brothers not only as his adopted sons, but as ambassadors of a far-off world, whose courage and character had taught him more about humanity than a lifetime of military service. The gala ended with a standing ovation, the crowd moved by the stories and performances of the evening. Lycor and Silas stood beside Jack, their hands joined, facing the audience. The applause was not just for their art or their eloquent words, but for their resilience, their spirit, and their capacity to bridge worlds. As they stepped off the stage, the brothers felt an overwhelming sense of achievement and belonging. They had faced adversity and prejudice, yet had managed to turn their situation into a beacon of hope and collaboration. Looking ahead, they were filled with optimism, ready to continue their work, spreading a message of peace and unity, and exploring their new life on Earth with Jack by their side. Their journey from alien refugees to beloved public figures was complete, yet it was clear that their story was just beginning. With each new day, they would write new chapters, not just for themselves, but for both their peoples, fostering a legacy of understanding that could one day span the stars.